Hello, my name's Keith, aka LoLByTheNumbers, and welcome to another 2014 League of Legends World Championship video analysis. Once again, this is a video analysis, not a shoutcast, so I will be assuming you've watched the match or don't mind spoilers. I will be focusing primarily on macro level strategy, looking at team compositions, their win conditions, and how teams can, should, do, and do not play them properly throughout the match. Put a lot of focus more on the losing team and why they lose. Also with the winning team, how they pull off the win, how they slow themselves down from not getting a faster one, or simply how well they actually do perform it in some match cases. I'll also be looking at individual lane matchups as well as items when it becomes relevant to the overall strategy, and when certain plays are made that are real key linchpins to the victory or defeat of a team. I'll be talking about the mechanical and individual skill there. For this match, we have TPA versus Starhorn Royal Club. This is their first match in the group stage, and without further ado, let's get into picks and bans. Taipei Assassins start off taking out Rengar, Fizz, and Maokai. These are very strong picks of Starhorn Royal Club. Very mobile and disruptive picks, especially Rengar and Fizz. And so TPA are taking it out. They want to have a stronger brawl team, a stronger fight team. So these are two solid picks to remove from Starhorn Royal Club's arsenal. Maokai is a generic ban. He's really good at the 5v5s. He kind of prevents some of the brawl stuff, and TPA aren't planning to pick him up first. Starhorn Royal Club start out, they ban Alistar, Nidalee, Zilean. Very standard bans coming from purple side, unless the purple side team is willing to play against the Nidalee. Alistar is almost always banned, so is Zilean, at least in the group stages. TPA first picked Lucian. This becomes pretty standard later on in the Worlds. However, right now he's not tended to be a first pick, but TPA do recognize the strength, and as Worlds progress, we really see Lucian becoming a big factor in most of the matches. So they do pick him up first, and it's a great pick for them. Starhorn Royal Club respond with Rise taking the top lane and picking up Kha'Zix. Insect is preferring to grab this Kha'Zix during the group stages, using him more for the team plays rather than the individual skill making. On TPA side, we do see Lee Sin and Janna being picked up. Janna is once again a great support, very strong, works well with Lucian, providing the 80 boost for Lucian's Q and his double shot passive. Lee Sin is also one of your standard junglers in the 2014 matchup. On Starhorn Royal Club side, we see Orianna and Nami. Nami, during the group stages, is another pretty standard pickup. For some reason, the supports are really tending away from Thresh in the group stage A and B. We'll see this end up changing, as Thresh is really a playmaking champion for supports. Nami is good. She provides great sustain, great disengage. She helps delay a team, and this is going to work well into Starhorn Royal Club's team composition because they're going heavy late game. On TPA's side, we see Syndra and Mundo coming in. Mundo's great against Rise. Does get bullied out a little bit earlier, but once the Spectre's Calix come into play, he picks up and takes over the lane. It also gives TPA a front line that they really need. He's great against double magic damage compositions, so picking him into Rise and Orianna is a great idea. The Syndra pick gives TPA another good mid-game power spike, some good bully potential. It really solidifies their team is looking for the mid-game power. On Starhorn Royal Club side, we see Caitlyn being picked up. While Caitlyn has a mid-game lull, whereas Lucian has a mid-game spike, Caitlyn is good against Lucian in lane. Lucian is a bully. He can get his damage out, especially with Janna. Not dashing, you don't want to dash against Nami. You can walk in, get the Q, get the double proc passive against against Caitlyn. However, since Caitlyn has range, anytime Lucian tries to go in, Caitlyn will at least be able to trade. One or two hits, as he tries to run away afterwards, she can also get in a Q. She has the ability to evenly trade even through Janna's shield against Lucian, and then Nami will allow her to sustain through with the heal. Top of this, when Nami picks up her slow, it's very easy for Caitlyn to land. that extra damage shot, making it much easier for Nami to land her bubble or Caitlyn to land her Q. It's a strong matchup on both sides, and it's fairly even. I would suggest, and TPA do end up doing this, lane swapping and putting Lucian Janna up in the top lane. This prevents them from really getting bullied out at level 1, at level 2, just simply due to Caitlyn's ability to harass and poke early on. As far as team compositions go, Starhorn Royal Club really have crafted a late game team composition that has serious problems during the mid game. Orianna's power curve slowly grows. She never really hits a dip, but she doesn't come into her full hyper carry deadly status until late in the game, where she's able to almost one-shot your carries while still providing lots of defensive ability, lots of control through her ultimate and her dissonance. Ryze has also got a big power dip when he's moving through his mana scaling phase, whereas Mundo, once he picks up his first item, gets that Spectre's Cowl or even the Spirit Visage, he's very, very strong against Ryze, very strong against Orianna. He can be that front line tank that TPA needs early. This is also accentuated by the fact that Caitlyn hits a mid-game power dip as well. She's very good at harassing in lane. She's got the range, she's got the poke from her Q, but she doesn't really provide that large ability of sustained damage until she picks up her attack speed item or even her third item, because she doesn't have an attack steroid aside from her passive. So this helps Mundo be able to grab his magic resist items and be a strong tank in the mid game. For SHR, this means that their mid-game power lull is even more accentuated. So what SHR needs to do for their win condition is survive into the late game. If they make it to the late game, they have a much stronger team composition. Ryze and Mundo kind of trade off, but we all know that Mundo, while becoming a super tank, does tend to fall off once the ADC reaches their 5-item mark. The ADC just gets too much sustain through Bloodthirster, as well as overall too much damage. SHR also have the longer range in their ADC. Their whole team is pseudo range. They all have small range. Kha'Zix is still somewhat of a range champion. He wants to do a lot of his damage through his W, waiting for the opportunity to leap in, get the kill, leap out. He doesn't want to sit in melee range. He's not a tanky. That quick hop-in assassin. What this means for SHR is that they don't need to engage against TPA. They're always going to be sitting back. They're going to be fighting the front line of TPA, and this works in TPA's favor during the mid-game. SHR cannot focus on Syndra. They cannot focus on Lucian. They have to deal with Mundo and with Lee Sin, who's going to be in their face. Once it does come down to the late game, though, Ryze goes even with Mundo. Kha'Zix outscales Lee Sin. Orianna outscales Syndra. On top of just being able to provide more damage, she gets high burst, just almost comparable with Syndra. She gets much higher sustained damage, and she offers protection abilities to her team. Caitlyn will also outscale Lucian, though Lucian moves into the late game extremely well, and they probably run into the same damaging capabilities. The fact that Caitlyn has the range makes her safer in this matchup. She's the one who's going to be able to easily avoid Lee Sin, who's going to be able to avoid Syndra stuns. She has the safety that Lucian doesn't have. Lucian's going to need to get close, and this makes him vulnerable to a Ryze snare into Orianna's combo and instant death. Nami also provides good disengage, not any real different than Janna, I would say, in terms of late game prowess, but since Nami provides great disengage, it helps Starhorn Royal's team move into the late game. So how does Starhorn Royal Club move into the late game safely and remove that mid-game power lull as best possible? Doing this 2v1 split push. It's fortunate for them that TPA are the ones ending up moving into the split push. TPA really did need to do it, so Starhorn Royal Club make the right move of going bottom. From here, we'll see them fast push. You can see the turret's already low. Caitlyn knows she needs to take the advantage she can and grow her team's gold lead in the other lanes. With Starhorn Royal Club fast pushing the bottom turret, moving straight up into the top turret, this gives their solo laners a little bit extra gold to work with. While Ryze and Mundo are kind of denied simply because of the 2v1, this means Orianna's going to get an extra 300-400 gold as compared to what she normally wouldn't get. This also means with the two turrets down, Starhorn Royal Club can focus on some other point on the map or just focus on being defensive. They've already got extra gold on their team and they don't need to worry about getting it quickly afterwards. They can back off, play defensive with that little bit of extra gold, and wait till they outscale TPA. It's sort of like giving a time buffer to Starhorn Royal Club's team. The big points that Starhorn Royal Club needs to reach for their late game is they need to get the static shiv on Caitlyn, and they need to get Athene's Unholy Grail onto Orianna. This will allow them to sit at a tower and have great wave clear. One Orianna command attack followed by Caitlyn Q and static shiv proc should clear a wave, and this allows them to delay against TPA. That's how Starhorn Royal Club gets into the game. That early gold from the turrets allows them to not have as weak of a mid game. It's a way to skip over that lull, and then they just have to wait it out without feeding TPA too much gold. Play turret defense, especially at the inner turrets. Try not to let TPA take them, and just wait. So, having talked about Starhorn Royal Club's team composition, let's look at TPA's. TPA have a very mid-game focused team. Lucian gets a huge power spike just as soon as he gets his BF blade. His skills help him immensely around level 6, 7, 8. That second dragon he's super strong at. Janna's also really good in the mid game, hitting her biggest spike really at level 9 when her shield is maxed out. She still has the ability to disrupt the team. She has the knock up. None of her other stuff really changes, but at level 9 she gets her biggest strength, the biggest ability to add to her team's play. Mundo as well, because of SHR's double AP composition and because Caitlyn does hit a lull in the mid game, is also going to be a strong powerhouse. Grabbing that Spectre's Cowl early will allow him to tank and sit through the damage that Ryze and Orianna can put out. He can be this great front line that just soaks for TPA. Lee Sin also hits his spikes early. We know he's great at playmaking. He does end up falling off later on, so he will be very mid-game oriented. Syndra as well has a great mid-game power spike. She earns her pick potential. She grabs that assassination potential with her level 6 ultimate. A good stun Q ult can end up with the other team being a man down for a fight, whether that person is killed or forced back with low HP. So that's TPA's plan. They want to get this into this mid-game spike. With this mid-game power spike, they want to focus on neutral objectives, primarily dragon, make sure that they're fighting for every dragon. Get good wards at Starhorn Royal Club's blue buff and their red buff. Try and fight them there. Lee Sin and Syndra should be able to kill Orianna or Kha'Zix pretty easily. A nice Lee Sin ultimate into the Q execute with the Syndra burst should be enough to quickly kill one of them in the fight. Mundo will also be the big bully at the dragon fights and the neutral objectives, especially if he goes for a red buff. That means Ryze has to follow, Orianna has to follow. He gets to use his double magic resist tankiness against them, while Syndra and Lee Sin pick off a target. So that's TPA's strategy. Once they're able to generate enough of a lead, mid-game power spike teams are really able to then just bully the other team, move from tower to tower quickly. Don't delay the game. TPA will fall behind if they delay, so they need to keep up the pressure once they get ahead. So that's the overall win conditions. I'll start talking more about them later as they come into play. We'll see in a few minutes at the second dragon things really start to heat up and move into TPA's favor, and then we see them use their team comp properly for a while, but lull out and let SHR come back into the game. So we'll get into that as it plays. Right now, we can see that Starhorn Royal Club does have a slight advantage on Caitlyn. They've got the both turrets, and now she can come to lane with a BF sword over Lucian. This means that Lucian can't really bully her. Nami, Kate have the advantage in this lane for now, and all they need to do is sit here and farm. Keep Lucian off the tower and wait. Be prepared for when he hits his power spikes later on. When he goes back in shop is when Caitlyn's going to need to worry. But for now, SHR are doing a great job. They're just delaying. They've got those towers for the initial gold and for essentially map control and buffering. The fact that Orianna died earlier, she wanted to go out to ward as she walked top. And it was if you've seen the match, the shoutcaster stated it. As a mid laner, you should never be moving up into the side of the 2v1. At that point in time, you had Lucian up top, Lee Sin and Mundo were in that area. TPA had control of the top side of the jungle. Orianna just needs to either get a ward into the lane bush or into the river bush by her lane. That way she can have vision and stay away from that top side hole. Shift to the bottom, play on the right side of the lane, and just be safe. However, because she died, this makes it a lot harder for Starhorn Royal Club to be able to put pressure on the mid lane. They really want Caitlyn to be able to take down this third turret. However, because Orianna died, she could not keep Syndra from farming. Now Syndra got the assist goal, she's got a little bit of benefit. Caitlyn comes into this lane a little bit late. Syndra now has the ability to constantly wave clear. It's not the biggest loss for Starhorn Royal Club. It does mean they can't fast push a third turret, but they don't really need to. The two turrets they've already got are enough. At this point, they need to recognize also that Lucian has grabbed his BF blade. He's on par with Kate, will be much bigger in the all-in fights. He has the bully potential. So this will come into play when they move back bottom. Talking about individual matchups while we wait. Mundo versus Ryze is pretty even. Mundo gets bullied a little early on. In this situation, we saw the 2v1. 2v1s just means Mundo cleaver farms. He has a bit more range on Ryze than that, whereas Ryze can go through the double jungle until he gets his tier and then return to the lane, being pretty safe at that point. In the lane in their 1v1, Mundo will get bullied by Ryze from the earlier levels. Lots of Q spam from Ryze keeps Mundo low. Mundo's HP is high enough though that he generally can sustain through it unless he gets ganked. Early ganks onto Mundo are really effective. Even ganks this late are pretty effective. He hasn't got too much tankiness. This is also a benefit of the fast push. You have this long lane against Mundo. Mundo can only run, and Kha'Zix has the constant slows. It makes it easy for Starhorn Royal Club to get the gank like they did. But back to the lane. With Ryze, he does constant Q spam against Mundo, whittles him down. Mundo deals with it, cleaver spams, but by the time he picks up his Negatron Cloak, Spectre's Cowl, now Mundo has the ability with his level 6 to actually attack Ryze. If he hits his cleaver onto Ryze, he can chase Ryze. Ryze is going to get a snare, but then Mundo needs to hit his second cleaver, can chase him down with greater tankiness and greater sustained damage with his W and his E, kill Ryze. Here we see where Lucian's able to bully. There was no reason for Kate and Nami to sit down at that bottom turret when it had one hit on it. Caitlyn takes a shot and then Qs. Because of that lockdown, she's stuck with the Q animation. Lucian knows he dashes straight into her, gets all his damage. She has no ability to get away. It was really a big misplay on Caitlyn's part. Caitlyn and Nami should have just backed up, let the tower go. They delayed TPA taking a tower for a good 14 minutes. They already had done plenty in this match that they could have they could have and should have just let it go. We see TPA, they collapse into the fight. SHR also collapse. And here is where SHR really get behind, and it's facilitated by Caitlyn sticking there. And so, see, she does an animation. It gives Lucian just enough time to get in, and he gets so much damage onto her. One big problem with this is we do see Orianna whiff her ultimate. She tries to flash Q, but doesn't get the Q out. It really hurts the fight. Sorry, a second. If Caitlyn had simply backed off, none of this would have happened. Caitlyn not backing off initiated the whole fight. TPA collapsed, SHR collapsed, Lee Sin ends up getting 3 kills from good play, and also by the mistake on Orianna, and then they get a dragon. So one greedy, real bad misplay by Caitlyn turns into sort of a nightmare for Starhome Royal Club and a huge spike for TPA. It's exactly what they needed to get their team win condition going, and now they have it going. There's one thing I want to point out. Lee Sin got the triple kill, and he goes back and he spends his money on Merc Treads. I really dislike this pickup. Not because Merc Treads are bad, but because he had enough money that he could have ended up buying a Giant's Belt, or a Spectre's Cowl, a Negatron Cloak. He could have built something more defensive, because the TPA needs these power items right now to be able to turret dive, to just put more pressure onto the turrets of Starhome Royal Club. I think this item pickup is a decent reason why TPA aren't able to take tier 2 turrets. I don't like that Lee Sin spent it. If you're ever playing a champion and you get a triple kill early on, a lot of your team's gold is focused onto you, and you need to turn that gold focus into combat stats. Merc Tread is not really a combat stat. Lee Sin does get the tenacity, but that only really affects Ryze and Nami. Lee Sin is pretty easily able to dodge out Nami skills, and if Ryze and Nami are using their snare and bubble on him, that's a positive thing. You don't want them using that on Syndra and Lucian. So if they waste it on Lee Sin, it's actually a benefit for TPA. So I really feel that Lee Sin should have grabbed Giant's Belt for some more tankiness, or he should have just finished off his Spectre's Cowl quicker. Something that would give him the ability to be stronger in a team fight and skirmishes than these Merc Treads. So right now we did see TPA, they swing top. They're doing what they need to right now. With this mid-game power spike of Syndra and Lucian, especially now that Lucian has his Infinity Edge, that Lee Sin's got that triple kill, they've got the dragon, they got the gold lead. TPA are in the position to take control of this game. Correctly, they rotate top, they take out the top turret, their next focus needs to be middle. They gotta keep pressing their advantage at this point. This game right now is all about what TPA does rather than what Starhome Royal Club does. Because Starhome Royal Club do have the fallback of the late game outscaling, so they just need to survive. We do see Orianna has her in Athene's Unholy Grail. She's building towards her death cap next. Well, actually, she's not building towards her death cap next. In this game, she's building towards the Void Staff, which is a really good pickup, I believe. I'll get into that in a second. But TPA are doing things properly. They go, they pressure the turrets, but here is where they fall off completely. TPA need to make sure that they keep up this pressure. They should be pushing turrets almost non-stop, rotating. Go from bottom to top to mid. Keep up rotations. Try and find SHR out of the jungle. Try and find a turret where it's undefended or defended only by, say, Ryze and not Caitlyn or Orianna. It's especially imperative that they get this done before Caitlyn picks up her static shiv, as that it will be a huge boon to the wave clear of Starhome Royal. If TPA do not push, do not take this advantage, SHR will start to outscale them. On the flip side, Starhome Royal's plan right now, what they need to be doing is just be defensive. Defend these turrets. Keep TPA from pushing into their base. Do everything they can to delay this game and draw it out. Don't worry about fighting for objectives. Get them when you can. Keep up the vision. Do not rotate through the jungle unless you know where TPA's team is, because if you rotate through the jungle, it's very likely Syndra's going to hit you with a stun. Lee Sin will make an insect play, and then you'll die, giving TPA the advantage to push a turret. Very luckily for Star Royal Club, TPA don't do anything. We saw the third turret, the middle turret, going down around 18 minutes. This score will remain 5-4 for a very long time, and we won't see TPA take another turret until about 28-29 minutes. This is very bad play, not properly using their team composition. They do take objectives and neutrals and dragons, but they're running on a timer. They need to make moves. They have the ability to make it, with Lee Sin and with Mundo being able to tank at turrets, and with Syndra and Lucian being the bullies for the pigs. The best thing TPA can do, take this dragon right now, which they are doing properly, and then go back to a sort of lane phase-esque play. Mundo can go bully Rise up top, pushing him into tower. Have Lucian's in the middle with Janna, have to go try and get the turret, and maybe throw Syndra down middle. You can either run a 1-3-1 with Syndra trying to push the bottom lane. Potentially you can pull Orianna away, which gives Lucian and Janna a better time to try and hit this middle. Or you run a 1-4 with Mundo pushing top and with the rest of TPA in the middle pushing. The goal isn't to take the middle turret or necessarily the side turrets. The goal is to get into position to rotate to a weak turret. And in this case, the weak turret is going to be Rise. Rise does not have wave clear, and Starhome Royal Club cannot move through their own jungle. So, if TPA were to go through the top jungle of Starhome Royal Club, clear out and get vision, and then put pressure on the middle turret, they could rotate through the top jungle before SHR are able to respond, and then take the top turret, Starhome Royal Club. If SHR tried to move through their jungle to defend, we have Syndra and Lee Sin there to provide pick and playmaking opportunities. A good Syndra stun followed up by her ultimate and Lucian's burst, or her stun could lead into a Lee Sin kick. Like right now, they do it well, but they don't end up actually taking the turret. They take a little bit too much damage. They go at this when their creep wave isn't there, and then they back off. SHR are there for the poke. What TPA should have done is they have no pressure on the middle. They needed to come from the middle to the top lane with the wave, rather than just sitting in the jungle and then going up to the turret. The other option is they need to bait out Baron. They do have the stronger mid-game team, which means they need to look for picks. This would include sending Lucian into the mid lane, letting him clear and keep things pushed, while the rest of the team clears out vision. Syndra looks for people moving in the jungle to get her burst combo off, and Lee Sin is also there for this extra damage. This would be more like running a 1-2-2 with Syndra and Lee Sin in TPA's jungle, Janna and Lucian in the middle, with Janna rotating a lot through the jungle, and then Mundo up top to push into the turret. This would allow a lot of rotating on terms of TPA. They could do it for a good 3-4 minutes, make sure that Starhome Royal Club are unable to get any wards into their jungle or any wards onto Baron, and then go for the Baron baits. Really, TPA have to play the vision war, have to play the rotational war. Make SHR lose out simply by map movement. Unfortunately, they don't do this. A lot of their vision control on Baron is very lacking. They actually let SHR take control of their top jungle. They don't put any pressure on the turrets. They don't pressure mid. They don't pressure top too much. The one time they did, they're doing it without a creep wave. Gets them too low, they have to back off. What needs to happen is TPA goes, they pressure that top lane with a wave. If the wave gets done, they run back through the jungle towards the mid turret, get some damage on mid turret, rotate back the same way up top as well. Starhome Royal Club cannot fight the 5v5 because they don't have the power. TPA has the gold advantage, the experience advantage, and the mid-game power spike advantage. So, taking away from this, for those of you who are watching, make sure you know when you need to put on all this force and how to do it. The big thing to take away is constant rotations from mid to bottom, bottom to mid, mid to top, back and forth, back and forth. Any damage you can get down is good and lasting. And if you do this rotation enough times, you'll get one of these turrets. You don't have to take it out right away, you just have to take it out over time. And even if you get damage on the bottom turret, the mid turret, and the top turret, you are doing something even if you don't take them down. You're using your time to your advantage, because that damage is still going to be there when you're able to make it for the final blow. As you slowly spread it out, you may be able to go top, mid, bottom, 1, 2, 3 real quick at one point, providing you with a large gold spike and lots of map control. So I can keep reiterating the points of that, but that's essentially it. TPA are not taking down turrets, they're not pushing their advantage. Right now, nobody is up top, Mundo's the one in the middle. It's not really working out for them. They are able to whittle down this bottom one and they force it, get a bit of damage. Problem is, Bebe takes good amounts of damage, so now they're forced off. Every time they're getting damage on these turrets, it's without a wave. Somebody's tanking it and it's really hurting them. Here, Mundo again is trying to get a little bit of damage. He should go and kill this, run up the top lane. He misses out on his opportunity to take out this turret. On Starhome Royal's club side, they're doing a great job of rotating. You never see them moving through the jungle dangerously. They always have the champions they need for the wave clear. Even Nami at one point used her ultimate to save a tower. They're doing a real good job of delaying, and it's almost been a full 10 minutes since a kill or a turret has fallen. So as more of this happens in Starhome Royal Club delay, let's look at items, because there's several bad choices in this match from TPA's side. I've already mentioned the Lee Sin pickup, how I did not like the Mercury treads early. I feel he could have made more playmaking ability with combat stats or even mobility boots just to move him around. Syndra's pickup of Zhonya's is really bad in my opinion, because SHR don't really have a frontline tank. They're all about sort of disengaging from TPA, poking out, and then waiting for a great Orianna ultimate. There's no reason for Syndra to have Zhonya's. She's not in any danger from Starhome Royal's team. Starhome Royal have to focus Mundo first. They have to focus Lee Sin first. They're not going to be looking to kill Syndra. Zhonya's also doesn't allow her any opportunities, say like that Fizz gets where his cooldowns come back up. She's really all burst in champion. So since she picked up this Zhonya, she's really hindering herself. She could have had Death Cap, which allows her for more damage, and we saw in the middle that Kha'Zix got away with like 10 HP. If she had had Death Cap instead of Zhonya's, or even Deathfire's Grasp instead, she could have got that kill. Later on, we see that she never buys a Void Staff, and this is silly as well. We have Ryze, who has 2 magic resist items, Negatron Cloak and Merc Treads. We'll see Kha'Zix pick up a Negatron Cloak on top of his Hex Drinker, and everyone else will get one as well, even if it's some minor ones. Not picking up a Void Staff on an AP champion, it's generally you want it as your 3rd item. She doesn't even pick it up as her 4th, and this becomes very bad. It just doesn't work out for her. TPA need her to have solid sustained damage rather than burst. That's why she should have gone Death Cap or Deathfire's Grasp instead of Zhonya's, so she has more attack capabilities instead of defensive ones.
and why she should have been picking up a Void Staff. She has to be the one dealing damage because it's her and Lucian, while Lee Sin and Mundo tank. And we also know that Lucian has a short range is in more danger, with Syndra's really the longest range that Starhome Royal Club have. So in a sense, she's already the safest one on the team and does not need this Sonya's. From Janna, we also see her picking up a Magi Soul Stealer. There's no reason for this, and she gets absolutely no value out of it. She picked it up way early, somewhere around after the mid turret went down, and there's been no fights. They're still sitting 5-4, the same score they were 12 minutes ago. She could have bought a locket of the Iron Solari. That would have been great. Does double duty against Ryze and Orianna, as well as doing some small duty against Nami. This also gives her team an extra shield to deal with the Orianna burst that's going to come out. Would have been an overall great pickup. She even could have picked up Magi Soul Stealer, or not Magi Soul Stealer, sorry, that's what I'm complaining about. Mikhail's Crucible, and then used it to stop Nami Bubble to stop Ryze Snare. Both of these items would have been much better pickups. She even could have bought a Death Cap, and that would have been a better pickup. Everything slowed way down. Just bad item buy. I really don't approve of Magi Soul Stealer on supports in serious games. So we do see TPA finally trying to make a move on Baron, but they have full vision of Baron, but they don't have full control of SHR's jungle. So it's a little iffy. Not to mention that both their frontliners are the ones doing Baron, and this is a problem. Lee Sin needs to be there to make picks when SHR try and come into Baron. He's the one who's going to make those plays through vision control and making SHR have bad rotations as they move to Baron. Him and Syndra are the primary targets for that. Lucian is also the one who's going to do the most damage to Baron. He should be one of the ones trying to two-man it with Mundo. Lee Sin could look to leap over it when it comes low. They just call him in. On the flip side, it also could have been Lee Sin, Janna, and Lucian, with Mundo running interference and Syndra looking for the picks. They had their two tanks in there, and they're the ones who are going to take the most damage. It's going to take the longest to do Baron. It's not the right choice. If you're going to do Baron, make sure you have your champions who are going to get the picks out of Baron Pit looking for those picks. SHR do a great job of defending against Baron. They recognize who's fighting Baron, so they know how long it's going to take. They see Syndra and they see Lucian outside looking for them, so they don't make a rush. They know Mundo and Lee Sin are going to take a while, but they do slowly push their way in and push their way safely to get vision and to scare TPA off of Baron. So TPA are still running out of a lot of decision-making problems. They don't know what they want to do, where they're going. They haven't had much success. They were able to get the bottom turret. They have controlled most of the dragons, but then they end up losing this one, partially because of the Baron play. And now they're running into danger time. They do have a 5k gold lead. However, they are the team that doesn't scale as well. Uzi now has his 3 items, so does Orianna's about to pick up her death cap. SHR are getting to really strong, dangerous territory. So again, on TPA side, we see 3rd item death cap coming out of Syndra. Would much rather have seen Void Staff. I think it provides more damage overall, even against the squishy targets. Once Caitlyn grabs a Negatron Cloak, Void Staff would definitely be better. Nami's picked up a Chalice, so she has some magic resist. It's just bad item choices that facilitate this game taking longer than necessary and prevent TPA from maximizing their damage in the late game. So, like I said, around 31 minutes, TPA were able to finally get the bottom turret. This slow whittling down, again, they're able to get the mid turret. It is taking them a good 15-16 minutes, though, to break the inner turret line of Starhorn Royal Club. And that's what Starhorn Royal Club were looking for, delay. And now they've gotten it. So both teams are on even footing at this point. Now that Orianna has picked up her death cap, she's a big, huge threat. There's not too much else to say. At this point, TPA, they still need to be looking for picks. Since they've been controlling the map, it seems in the game that they have flow and control to Starhorn Royal Club as well. At this point, they're not going to be able to push towers very well. They can still try and look for those rotational plays, but it's a little too late. They should start pressuring Baron heavily. They should have done it 5-10 minutes ago, but this is now becoming their only option. What they need to do is they need to move as 5, get into SHR's top jungle, completely clear out the jungle, clear out Baron, and just play in that lane for a while. Let Lucian be the one to keep mid pushed at the even turret while the rest of the team pressures that top turret. Get SHR to move through the top jungle, find a good pick with Syndra, and just look for that opportunity to get the kill. On the flip side, simply by taking control of the jungle, you force SHR to make very safe decisions. They have to run through their base of the top turret or right along the base wall, because if they run through the jungle, they don't have vision of the bushes, and they have to be very worried of Syndra bursting one of them out. What this means is, since the game is so far, and since Lucian is so strong with vision control, Starhorn Royal Club have to delay their Baron checks. They have to move slowly into them. TPA can look for the opportunity when Starhorn Royal Club is at their middle inhibitor turret or even at the top turret to pull back really quickly and make a dedicated play onto Baron. Just try and burst it down before Starhorn Royal Club are able to respond. The whole goal is take out SHR's safety net in that top jungle. But we do see TPA trying once again to get Baron, but they're not dedicating themselves to it. It would be a real neat play if they wanted to try and force something. Is if Mundo had TP'd into that jungle ward, they could have ran in behind Kha'Zix and Orianna, created a great threat, and let Syndra and Lucian they sort of pincer SHR. Here we do see them fight. Janna gets caught out. Great play by SHR to just continually delay the game. Knock out Janna. TPA no longer want to try for Baron. Both teams fight, pull off. This works in Starhorn Royal Club's favor. Right now, Ryze's TP is down. This should signal to TPA that they can totally control Baron and go for a dedicated fight. Mundo needs to stay bottom and look for the opportunities to just TP onto Baron. TPA burst it down. You still have to worry about the Kha'Zix smite. You can go 50-50. At this point, TPA kind of need to make this play. They need to do something to stop this eventual defeat that they're running into. While we wait for the next play, I mentioned the top lane matchups. I've talked about the bottom lane a little bit. Reiterate on the bottom lane and go into a bit more detail in this 2v2 matchup and why TPA wants to lane swap. Caitlyn with her range is able to poke and sort of whittle down Lucian while all his damage is on burst abilities. And while he has the all-in potential and the trade potential against Caitlyn, because Nami is on Caitlyn's side, there's the sustain. When Lucian goes in, he'll be able to do maybe a good third or half of Caitlyn's HP, especially with Janna's shield. However, then Caitlyn backs off, and while Lucian's dash is down, while his Q is down, she gets poke after poke after poke. her damage will be consistent against Lucian, and eventually will win them the lane through that. Especially early on. Especially early on, this is much more in Caitlyn's favor. When Lucian gets his dash, say level 3, level 4, and his first item, he outscales Caitlyn's poke. He's the one, he can go all in and be a bully. As always against Nami, you need to save your dash, because if you get caught in that bubble or that ultimate, it's very deadly. So here's what SHR have a great opportunity here. They're making no delays on looking for this Baron fight. They caught the ADC of TPA out. Lucian's dead. It was a trade for Nami. They are forcing SHR to come to the Baron. And unfortunately, SHR they're kind of ready for the fight, but they don't go all in on this. Syndra's not there in the right spot to fight for the Baron, and it just goes badly for TPA. This is an example of decisiveness. Throughout the game, TPA had the opportunity to bait this Baron, to take control of the jungle, to make a decisive play and say, hey, we're going for Baron, we're trying this 50-50, or we're going to do this, force Kha'Zix to come in, and then we're all going to jump on him. They could have put 5 men in the Baron pit, had wards over their wall, looked for the Syndra stun onto Kha'Zix, Lee Sin knocks him into the Baron pit, kill him, TPA own Baron. On SHR side, we see the very first time they have an opportunity, they catch Lucian out. What they do, they go bait Baron. They have a pink ward, they're ready to go in, they clear out the war vision, and they say, TPA, come get us, we are here. And because it's been so long in the game, because Starhorn Royal Club do have the 5v4, and because their team scales harder, they are able to get Baron and get the win. They kill Baron so quickly, and that's what TPA needed to do. They needed to have Syndra in there, or Lucian. They needed to go for that quick Baron kill, just melt him down, or force those picks, and they never did either of it. So at this point, the game is now completely in Starhorn Royal Club's favor. We already know that they are a late scaling team. It's reached that 40-minute mark, 70,000 gold across the board. We have 4 or 5 items on everybody. And now they also have Baron. There's not too much that TPA can do. While Mundo is super tanky, Syndra does not have a Void Staff. Her Deathfire Grasp is really late. It's not as good effect in the late game, especially without the Void Staff. We see Lucian is also working towards a 3rd item. I don't like that he's building up Blade of the Rune King. There's not a lot of HP tankiness on Starhorn Royal Club's side. The tankiness is coming from Orianna shields and Rise through his resistances rather than HP. The Blade of the Rune King is not going to be the best option. We do see an amazing flank by Lee Sin. Very well played to walk all around there. They kill one of the largest threat on Starhorn Royal Clubs. They kill out the Orianna. Unfortunately, they're not able to get any more. They do make a play for mid. It's a little overextended, as we'll see, but it does work out. So going back, I don't like the Blade of the Rune King from Lucian. He really should be picking up a defensive item. Magic Resist would be great. Banshee's Veil to stop the snare from Rise would be huge. Just offer, even Guardian Angel would be great too, or hell, you can buy a Warmogs, whatever, I don't care. Grabbing this Blade of the Rune King is not doing much for him at this point in time. If he wanted more damage, he should have gone for Mercurial Scimitar. That way at least he gets some MR. He has the active of the Quicksilver Sash to get out of Nami Bubble or Rise Snare, and he still gets himself some damage. This extra life leech is not going to help him. He's more likely to get bursted out by Orianna or Caitlyn rather than need that extra 10% vamp. Also, if he's just going to kill somebody at this point, he's going to be able to do it without it. Uh, Lucian is about to burst. He doesn't need that extra active. He would better benefit at this point from the extra AD of Mercurial's Scimitar. Also on TPA's side, we still don't see a locket. There's no locket from Mundo. There's no locket from Janna or Lee Sin. We're actually going to see Mundo build Sightstone at this point, and that to me is just silly. You really need to work in that 5th defensive item, or you can buy an Atmos Impaler. Sunfire Cape is great on Mundo, synergizes with its Burning Agony, synergizes with Thornmail. It allows him to overcome the lifesteal of a Bloodthirster on ADCs. If he didn't want to go that sort of offensive-defensive route of Atmos or Sunfire, he could have picked up the Locket, and this would have been great for his team. His team needs this thing. They need the Locket of the Iron Solaria against Orianna and against Ryze, two very high AP damage dealers. Why he goes for the Sightstone, I don't know. There's already behind. You have an open slot on Lee Sin who can buy wards. It's just not the right pickup. Now once again we see Janna has this Magi Soul Stealer. She still has yet to get a stack onto it. It's been completely wasted gold. Whereas on the flip side on Nami, we have Mikhail's Crucible. This will protect somebody from Cinderstun, and it's going to be huge against Cinderstun as well. It's the one CC that TPA really have, and if Syndra had ever got a pick in the jungle, could have been what saved Starhorn Royal Club from defeat. Right now, we see a lot of weird plays by both sides, back and forth. We saw that TPA rushed middle, they took the mid turret, and then they backed off and ran down into their jungle instead of straight down the lane, while Starhorn Royal Club killed the middle inhibitor, or the mid tier 2 turret, and then we see TPA run back up and they get themselves in a bad position. Starhorn Royal flank them, get the flash engage onto Syndra, and essentially that's all she wrote. Their scaling team gets into play. If Syndra's Zhonya's, the one time she really had the option to use it, turns out to be useless. Even if she had used it the moment she got snared, she's stuck in front of TPA's team. And that's the place she can't be. She has to be behind them. This is why the Zhonya's doesn't make sense. There's no good timing for her to use it. So with Syndra's down, SHR know the Baron timing, they rush it. Their damage is high, TPA can't respond. There's no way for them to get in position to even try. By the time Lee Sin is there, almost very close. Maybe if he had hit the Q onto Baron, but properly, SHR block it. No vision for the smite, and TPA have lost. SHR have played their win condition properly. They've scaled into their late game team, though they should have lost this game. Because of that really bad play in the bottom lane that gave Lee Sin the triple kill. Lucian got a kill. They got Dragon. That was almost a nail in the coffin for Starhorn Royal Club. It was TPA closing the lid on them, but they never did put those nails in. Since TPA did not close out the game, Starhorn Royal Club scales into their greater potential, and now they're essentially unstoppable. One thing to point out, since Syndra does not have Void Staff, Ryze doesn't need to build a Banshee's Veil. He sits on his Spectre's Cowl, and that's all he needs. He builds a Thornmail since he knows that Lucian is going to be the threat, that Syndra's damage is really nullified by her not having a Void Staff. And we see her picking up a needlessly large rod. I can understand at this point why she's grabbing it. Maybe she doesn't have enough gold. She would need an extra, I think it's 600, 700 gold to finish a Void Staff. Maybe she wants as much power as she can because she knows that they're losing. Unfortunately, it's still not building into a Void Staff, so she has a even longer time to wait for it. It's more of a this needlessly large rod is more of a desperation buy than anything else. We also see here's the second Negatron cloak coming on Kha'Zix. Orianna, of course, has always had her Athenes, Mikhail's from Nami, and the Mercurial Scimitar from Caitlyn. Syndra really has hampered her late game damage potential, and even hampered herself in the mid game by grabbing this Zhonya's. So for now, SHR just have to slow push. They have the superior team and they know it. They have Baron. There is no rush for them. TPA can't come back at this time. There's no more scaling in the game. So it's all about just team play. So all Star Home Royal Club need to do is slowly push, let Caitlyn get her pot shots on the tower, and eventually make it into TPA's base. As long as they don't get caught out by a Lee Sin ultimate or by a Syndra stun, they should be fine. Even the Syndra stun into her burst damage is not that deadly because of the lack of Void Staff. Since I haven't talked about the mid lane matchup, let me get into that while we're just waiting for the inevitable defeat. Orianna versus Syndra is really just a nothing lane. I'll stop. So here we see Star Home Royal Club waited for the Rise Flash. The Rise Flash worked earlier to get Syndra, does it again straight onto Lucian. Since Lucian has no defensive items, and this is another complaint, he's immediately dead. There's no hope for him. If he had a Mercurial Scimitar instead of this Blade of the Rune King, he would have taken less damage in the first place. He would have been able to cancel out Rise's snare and dash or flash away before Orianna can get her ball in position to just destroy him. This is a huge problem with going for 5 offensive items when you are the one on your team who needs to do the damage. Lucian being short range, he can't afford to do so. This opens up the base for Star Home Royal Club, and just solidifies more ease of winning. And we see right there, Lucian doesn't even move he's dead before the Rise snare ends. You can also put a little bit of this mistake onto Janna. Once again, that Magi Soul Stealer, she doesn't get Mikhail's in time. She has it now, but she didn't have it when he needed it most. So going to the mid lane matchup while we wait for SHR to push top or mid. Orianna against Syndra is a pretty farm heavy matchup. All Orianna has to do is dodge Syndra stuns. Even when she gets stunned, she can pull her protect. She generally has enough defensive ability to survive Syndra's burst. She has to be very careful if she gets behind though. Probably doesn't want to fight until she at least has her Chalice, that way she has some defensive stats against her. And Orianna just kind of sits there and farms. She scales into her better late game ability. And that's all that matchup really works into. Farm lane with Orianna scaling better into the late game, having better team fights. Whereas Syndra's looking for skirmishes and picks, she has good ability to create plays against champions in other lanes and against the jungler. So now with the bottom inhibitor gone, we just see pretty standard play from a team who's ahead, who has a Caitlyn. Just get in there, get a couple shots on the turret, back up, wait for the next wave. There is no rush. Lee Sin tries to make a play, doesn't quite get it. His flash is late. He really should have used his ultimate and then flashed over, guaranteeing the kick into his team. It was something TPA needed to do. They had to try. Didn't quite pull it off. Starhome Royal Club are able to get another inhibitor. Once again, it's slow play. So let me take a look at my notes real quick. Oh, one thing to mention about the item builds before. Lucian picked up his Last Whisper when there were 0 armor items on Starhome Royal Club's team. This would have been better spent grabbing a Bloodthirster. Bloodthirster would have allowed him to do more damage to turrets for the push, as well as allow him to take 1 or 2 hits to get that extra damage on it. Lucian Janna can do great tower pushing work, but when Lucian has a Bloodthirster, he essentially has an extra 600-700 shield, as well as massive amounts of 80 for that double proc. Here we see TPA. They try and make a play at Baron, and it goes fairly well. I'm not sure how I feel about Lucian when he dashed into the middle of the team, but that is the problem. He has to be in the fight. And this is one of the reasons why Starhome Royal Club's team scales better, is because Caitlyn is much safer. And this is the end of the game. There's too many death timers. TPA tried to make a play. They had to. Baron was their best opportunity. They're just too far behind. So back to the point with Lucian. Since he picked up the Last Whisper, it does give him decent benefit. Everyone gains armor per level. But what it means is he has less damage against the turrets, and the turrets are what TPA needed to push down. They had to get that inner ring down way before they ended up getting them down. They drew this game out an extra 10-15 minutes, and that's what let Starhome Royal Club come back in and win. So it's a long match. I'm pretty sure I said the same points many times. Just as a recap, what you should take away is, from this match especially, item choices are important. As starting with Lee Sin, picking up the Merc Treads doesn't really offer too much in combat at towers at the pushing. He needed he needed not offense stats, but he needed combat stats. Earlier Spectre's Cowl, a Giant's Belt, something that would allow him to put more turret pressure on. The Mercury Treads is really just a safety buy, more of an escape tool rather than a combat tool. Zhonya's second on Syndra really doesn't fit. She had no need for it. She never used it at all during the game. She was the one on TPA's team who was the safest. She needed to have more damage, more consistency, and much earlier on. The lack of a Void Staff really hurt her late game potential, and not seeing it is kind of mind-boggling. Gianna also picking up the Medjais turns out to be useless. Much better money could have been spent on a Locket of the Iron Solari, which would have given her team much stronger combat stats to push turrets, or a Mikhail's would have been great to prevent those Rise snares. The one onto Syndra at the mid lane push, the one onto Lucian that ended up with TPA losing the inhibitor. Same thing for Lucian, buying that Cutlass instead of Mercurial's Scimitar. He wasn't able to escape the Rise Flash Snare. Him not buying a Bloodthirster and buying the Last Whisper instead means less turret pressure, and that's what TPA needed to do. So item pickups in this match were actually very important, and that's something to take away. The other thing to take away from this match is, when you're ahead, you need to recognize how long you're going to be ahead for, what you need to do to extend that time duration of being ahead, and how to close out the game. TPA didn't know how to do this correctly. They kept rotating they would try to push top for a while, then try and push mid, and then they would back off, go to bottom, try and do the same thing. They never dedicated themselves to one turret, which, as shown, wasn't working out anyways. And when they rotated, they only did it from mid to bottom once, or from mid to top, or from top to mid. They only did the rotations once. They never kept going. They never did from top to mid to bottom, or from top to mid to top to mid. They needed to keep going back and forth, wait for a rotational mistake from Starhome Royal Club, and keep getting what damage they could on the towers to whittle them down. Remember, it's only the inhibitors that regen, inhibitor turrets that regen, not the inner ring or the outer ring of turrets. The other option they had was Baron, and they needed to make Starhome Royal Club blind. Spend a good 3, 4, 5 minutes in the top side jungle, pushing top and mid, pushing the top turret, rotating to the mid turret. Keep clearing out Starhome Royal's wards. Never let them get into their jungle. Deny them vision. And then once those 3 or 4 minutes have passed, pull back towards Baron. Look for picks with Lee Sin and Syndra. Wait for that to happen. Take that advantage. Get a kill. Move to Baron. Make a decisive call. You have to remember, Syndra's stun is a longer range than ward placement. TPA could have simply sat in a bush, waited for Nami to come out, waited for Kha'Zix, waited for anybody to come try and place a ward, to come look for the Baron attempt, and then gotten the kill. So this is why TPA lose. They don't do what they need to win. And I know that's stating kind of something that sounds obvious, but they needed to put on the pressure. They were the team that had to make the moves. However, they delayed the game. They let the game draw out, and this played into Starhorn Royal's composition. On Starhorn Royal's side, as stated before, that play at the bottom lane, over greedy by Caitlyn, really set them up into a bad position. Starhorn Royal played the start of the game very well. They got 2 turrets. This kind of gave them a little bit of gold buffer, a little bit of not map pressure buffer, but they didn't have the need to take those turrets anymore. They could focus on the defensive aspects of the match. However, because of the greedy play of Caitlyn, all this early game prowess by Starhorn Royal Club comes back, bites them in the face. Now they're behind against the mid-game comp. So that's all. I hope it was informative. Hope you learned a lot, especially about how important item choices can be, and how important having a clear plan of how to push into an enemy team is important. So, with that, hope it was informative, entertaining. The notes for this match can be found below in the link section, as well as a link to the portal page for all of my 2014 World Championships notes and video analysis. Once again, I'm Keith, aka LoLByTheNumbers, and thank you for watching.